Hi, welcome to Clark Lindsay Conversations. I'm Sarah Hawkins, and today I'm standing in our art gallery here at Clark Lindsay. And we love this space because we have the opportunity to bring in local artists along with our resident artists and our employee artists, and we like to put their artwork down this hallway. And so today we will have Tom Fry. He is a resident in our villas, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about his photography. So come along with us and have a look.
Well, hi folks, I'm Tom Fry. I live here at Clark Lindsay along with my wife, and we are villa residents. We moved to Clark Lindsay in the villa about nearly 7 years ago now, and it's been a delightful period of life for us, and I have had time to be very active in photography during these 7 years with retirement now on board. So what we want to do today is to share with you, like we've been visiting with the residents here and sharing some of the images that I've taken. And we won't spend a lot of time, so don't fear getting bored, but we do have a little over 60 different images, and we'll try to give you a feel of what's here, and hopefully it can be like you were here in person. I've had them organized so that we could look at the animals first. Some people like animals and insects. Then we'll look at some scenery-oriented type pictures. Look at some history, a little history and that type of thing, and then move into the plants and plant life, and then end up with some some individual shots. So stay with us, and we'll move through this fairly quickly and give you a chance to experience the gallery here at Clark Lindsay, which many of our residents have been expending quite a bit of time in recently. So let's get started. Well, folks, let's start with in the birds. I had a couple of birds photography here that you might want to take a look at. One was a cardinal that we picked up down in Arizona. Kind of lucked out, but it did turn out to show the entire bird, and all the feathers are showing. So that's been kind of a fun one. And then you can get a good look there, I think, and see some of the color. The beak makes the picture. It just adds a little color to it with the tomb. Well, I caught another bird, which is a very common one. I don't even know the name of it, here in the Clark Lindsay Gardens. I was just out in the gardens one morning and simply was able to portray the birds that are there we see every day. So that just shows us what people are having a chance to look at. When we moved from the birds, we picked up a squirrel that's this happens to be one of my wife's favorites. The squirrel, we were out in Washington, D.C. near the Hamilton Hotel, and there were just squirrels everywhere. And I found this little guy working on his acorn, and the thing that makes it fun is that you can see his eyes, you see his whiskers, and the tail's up over the back. So that's been kind of a fun picture of a squirrel. It looks a little different than what we see locally, but it's still okay. When we leave the squirrel, we turn to the deer. This is outside of our back door. I did this actually from the inside one evening. The deer was there, and he's obviously on, I used the title, Deer on Alert near Clark Lindsay Villa. And so this is what these deers, we see them quite a bit there, and they're still around. And the fun part, currently we're seeing some of the young ones. So that's kind of a special one to us to have the deer so close. I did a workshop on the next 2 or 3 it was in Chicago on a macro type workshop, but they brought some animals in that we could get up close to and look. Normally one would have to go to Costa Rica to see a red-eyed tree frog. Now I've done that, but he sure can't get a good photograph there, whereas we found this one. And this is kind of fun to notice in particular the color, the underbelly color of the tree frog. So that's been kind of a fun one. And his eyes they're always notable, those red eyes in those tree frogs. We had a chamelon, which I'd never even heard of, let alone known anything about. But our title here is a slow-moving old world lizard with a protruding eyes that rotate independently. So the beauty of this image to me is the color that is actually in this particular creature. It does look like a wizard, but knowing that those eyes rotate around. So that's one that's just so different than we normally see. But in the same same session, they had this what's called a skink, S-K-I-N-K. Looks like a snake to me. When you will note the blue tongue that's sticking out, that's made this one kind of a fun picture. And they claim that they're a low-risk pet, but I don't believe I'm going to add that to the pet for the grandkids. But at any rate, a skink. And the toad, we've all seen toads, but one evening we looked out our front porch, and this little guy was sitting there, literally, right in the front door where a visitor would be. He was oblivious to me with the camera and light, and it made it possible to get kind of a neat picture of him. I used all different kinds of lighting, but we got all of his face in focus, and we could see the texture and the color on his skin. So that's been kind of a fun one, and that was very much a local issue. Well, folks, you may feel a bit. I don't know how to say. This is a hawk, and the hawk flew by me here at Clark Lindsay one day. I had the photo lens out, and he had the squirrel in his paws already. Landed in a tree, and I was able to photograph this hawk devouring a squirrel. It tells us what nature is like. It's gory, but I did in fact see how it all works, and we've been able to capture the entire animal, and you can also see the what's still left of the squirrel, and unfortunately that squirrel went kind of fast. As we move away from the hawk, we'll start to look now at let's look at three insects that I was able to capture on close-up. This is what a grasshopper looks like. He's on a milkweed pod, so you can get the perspective. And I would assume once we come in close with the shot, you can see all of the detail on the grasshopper. So that is just, I'd never seen a grasshopper quite that close, and maybe that's closer than we need to see them, but at any rate, that's the way it was. When you're out, and these are milkweeds. We have a lot of milkweeds here in the Clark Lindsay Prairie, trying to attract the monarchs. This is just another beetle at work, trying to get a close-up of what they look like when they're working, and they're colorful. And you see things when we get up close and see the parts of the animal. It's kind of interesting. As we look at this one, this is the orange beetle, again on a milkweed pod. Here's one milkweed pod. The beetle is on another pod, and we're actually seeing the entire beetle itself with its very tentacles, legs, and it helps us understand what these creatures are really like when they're out in the wild. So that's our orange beetle. Okay, well, let's move next to our monarch. The monarch is so important here. You may have seen the video that Clark Lindsay did on the monarch. They're doing a lot of work here. But we actually captured this monarch actually at work on a flower. And that's kind of fun because the monarch is so pretty. And we were able to get one like that. So it's a close-up of what they're doing all the time. We turn now to get away from that. The Arthur community, they had a horse days. I believe they called it Arthur Horse Days. It's an event that comes there every few years. And during that time, they were able to let the public see horses. And here we are looking at a six-horse Belgium team actually plowing the soil. They've gone, this is plowed, and now they're coming along pulling another plow behind it. Beautiful horse, and that just shows us what these Belgium horses look like when they're at work. And note particularly the harness and the pulling, how that animal is pulling. So beautiful sight. I was out with my granddaughter, and my wife and I were in Virginia, and I walked out to the end of the dog park. They were walking dogs, and I had the long lens on, a telephoto lens, and I captured this Siberian Husky. And we've really enjoyed this. The beautiful color in his eye. I don't know whether you can see that blue in the eye, but also the blue in his collar, or in his fur. And then he's actually got a little collar down here. And so it's just a beautiful, looks like he's sitting for a portrait, when in fact he had no clue that anybody was even looking at him. So that's our Husky. Let's turn a bit to some more scenery type pictures. We enjoyed being down in, as some of you have been, in Sedona, Arizona. Most of us, when we go to this, it's called the Chapel of the Holy Cross, you actually are seeing it from the inside, as we were. But when we came out, we discovered this is what it looked like if you get outside. And here's a cactus patch right below the place where this beautiful chapel has been built. So that's what Sedona, Arizona looks like. It's just a very neat place. The red rock is gorgeous there, of course. And I've done some of the photographs by going to photography workshops, and one of them was down in South Carolina. And the fella took us out really early in the morning to get positioned for the sunrise. And so a group of us we were waiting, taking pictures, and this is what it looked like early in the morning. The clouds make this kind of an interesting image along with the sunrise. We've seen lots of sunrises, but this is one in South Carolina. Well, not every beauty certainly is away, and I encourage you in photography, don't think you need to go away. Beauty is right here at home, and you don't need a fancy camera either. I've gone to digital, and many people have, but you've got your phones or that kind of thing. They take excellent pictures. This was simply down at fall foliage down at Fox Ridge State Park, which is down near Charleston. But this has been one that we've enjoyed. This one goes in our home. My wife's got a spot for this one when we get it back. Next one's a resort out in Ruckate. I don't think I say that right. Lake in New York. Beautiful spot. Just a nice area. Again, a lot of beautiful places around Danville. This is the Forest Glen Preserve Woods that is actually south of Danville. Another fall shot. It just helps us recall what beauty we have here in the fall. And I particularly like the road takes us right into the woods, and we don't know where that all ends, and that makes it kind of interesting. But between Champaign and Danville is the Kickapoo State Park, which many of you no doubt have been there. I was there late one afternoon and caught a very nice reflection, not only of this tree reflecting in the water, but also of all the color that is reflecting. So that's our reflection picture, and comes from Kickapoo State Park. My wife and I have had the pleasure of participating in several Rhodes Scholar programs, quite a few as a matter of fact. One of them was out in Chesapeake Bay, Maryland, when we spent a week there learning how the fishing industry works and so forth. This was on Smith Island, where, as I recall, 400 people, they live there, and this is obviously their living and how they get where they want to go. If they need groceries, they've got a boat ride of about an hour before they can get there. But a beautiful place, and that image helps us kind of get a picture of what it was like in the Chesapeake Bay area. Another of our Rhodes Scholar programs was out in the area of Cape May, New Jersey, and was able to capture this lighthouse. If you happen to enjoy lighthouses, this might be one you would enjoy. Cape May is a very interesting place, a lot of Victorian homes there, and in the beautiful scenery. We did several out in the, again, Rhodes Scholars, we were out in the Wilmington, Delaware area, and we could kind of look at several of the group. This This actually comes from Nemo's Gardens, which supposedly is the premier French estate in the U.S. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but this is just a very small piece, lovely French estate. But in that area, there are several places, and you can take a look at that one, and then we'll take a look at some others. Now this bridge was actually in the Nemo's Gardens itself, and then we moved over to Longwood Gardens. Again, I'm sure some of you have been there. That's in Pennsylvania, lovely place. And then this was back in the Wilmington, Delaware area, that Hagley Museum area, site of the Gunpowder Works Foundry. Fascinating history there. But while in that same area, again, we looked at several other places. I'm not sure I pronounced it right, but this is the Winterthur Mansion and Gardens near Wilmington. A couple of images come from there. This is one of them. It was an overcast, rainy day with the azaleas and dogwoods in beautiful bloom. As you can see here, the reds and the whites. The next picture actually will show the dogwoods a little bit better. But again, the azaleas and the dogwoods were just gorgeous on that morning. And finally, in that same area at the Mount Cuba Center, which is right close there, it was actually raining on this morning, and we actually found this beautiful tulip display. We tried to add a little history to this project, and here's the historic Grand Hotel at Mackinac Island, Michigan. If you've been there, you certainly recognize, you'll see the horses pulling the carts, because there are no cars there. People travel only that way. Beautiful hotel, it's historic, and it's well known. Lovely place to visit. And I might add, it's too expensive. We were on a Rhodes Scholar program, and we were able to get in there and not break the bank, so that was good. We've been in the Southwest, of course, as anybody that travels any has, and this is the multi-story home at the Taos Pueblo in Taos, New Mexico. And these supposedly have been inhabited for about 1,000 years, and it's quite understandable that it would. But they're beautiful, and it's hard to imagine that they have been there for so long. I particularly enjoy these colored doors. Everybody's got a different door, and it would be interesting to peek inside those. But at any rate, that's what it looks like on a nice sunny morning. I added one that's been a mystery as Clark Lindsey residents have been looking at this. It's an old-fashioned single tree, and it's actually used with horses, and it balances the load. And the thing I liked about this was not all that history, but the fact that we could see very different coats of paint, from the yellow, the dark green, and we've got some orange. It's a little hard to tell how many, but maybe as many as 3 coats of paint, and the rust that you could feel like you could touch it. So this is it's an old item, but it does represent the history of horse farming, and that, of course, I found that in the Horse Days program down at Arthur. We couldn't have a set of images on the history without getting to Washington, D.C. And my wife and I had never been in the Library of Congress till we were there on a Rhodes Scholar program, and it's just one lovely building. And this is a picture that portrays some of the beauty and the intricate design that has been done on that building. And we moved from there, we moved over to the Capitol. And after you've had a chance to look at that, we'll look at this Capitol. And what we did was look up into the dome of the Capitol building back in the days when we could do that, and see the beauty and the intricacy that was there. Light coming in all these windows all the way around. And then what you'll notice here in the center is a painting. And what I'd like to do is have you look at that and then move to a close-up with a telephoto lens, of course. Don't think I crawled up there. But at any rate, show you what it looks like if you look at that on a close-up basis. And unfortunately, I've not had anyone explain the painting itself. All I know is the devil must be involved because we got the pitchfork, but it does show the intricacy again and the beautiful artwork that has been done on our nation's capital. Well, my real profession was being a professor in the College of Agriculture and Agricultural Finance. And one of the things that happened on our South Campus was this beautiful McFarland Bell Tower. And most people see the entire tower, and I was able to capture the top part of it. And I forget how many bells, but this has got the full the full carillon set of bells. So that's kind of a unique, just stands by its own. As the next one will, I come from, my wife and I both come from Carthage, Illinois, and one of our claims to fame in Carthage is our beautiful county courthouse. And the thing that makes it kind of unique to me is that my grandfather was actually on the Board of Supervisors at the time this beautiful structure was put together. That's the Carthage Courthouse in Hancock County, Illinois. You see the beautiful part of the top up there. My aunt was a collector of bird figurines from all over, and when she passed away, we were fortunate to get those, and I decided to try to photograph some of those, and I found it kind of interesting. I've got these 3 that I photographed, and this may be another way to enjoy bird figurines, and it does show the character of the figurines and the birds. Beautiful. Some of those, I don't know where those came from, several from Italy that she had gotten, and Europe in general. Not much of a story on this. I was at a conference again where I could take pictures of shells, and I just found some beauty in those. And you might enjoy the composition of those. But what I would comment on, we have a beautiful masterpiece garden here at Clark Lindsay, and this is the gazebo and the pond, and this was the fish that was so well known to our residents. It ultimately passed away. I'm not sure what happened, but we lost it. But beautiful in that particular pond. I've not done much in people. If you've thought about this, is one I really like of this young man, deep in thought. We sure wonder what he's thinking about. Now let's take a look at some floral type pictures. This was a rose bud that was opening right here on Clark Lindsay campus. And it's the beauty of its nature. You can tell it's just coming out of its shell, if you will, so to speak. We have a lot of milkweeds around Clark Lindsay trying to protect the monarchs, and I found this one exploding. It's what it looks like. It was a very windy day, and that part that's coming out of the pod. So that's a little different look at some florals. Red zinnias are always beautiful, and Clark Lindsay Gardens, there's a lot of people growing those, and they just have some very gorgeous ones, so we wanted to include one of those in the display here. We were out at Longwood Gardens, as I indicated earlier, and this was a foxglove that's just beautiful, and you can see the intricate detail inside those buttercups, maybe that's what they're called. But at any rate, foxglove at Longwood Gardens in Pennsylvania. Out at Longwood Gardens that I mentioned earlier, it's just a beautiful display, and we found this lovely foxglove out in that gardens in Longwood. It's in Longwood Gardens, Pennsylvania. And you can see the intricate detail in those cups of that flower, and they're beautiful when they're in focus. This one's a local one out in the Clark Lindsay Gardens, a yellow beauty. I don't recall the title of that, but it's from the lily family, and it's a nice mixture of the flower on the dark background. Daffodils are always popular, and here are a couple of beauties, frilly double centers, and again this came from the Clark Lindsay grounds itself, daffodils. We had some begonias at the entrances, a couple of the entrances to the village here. I was able to capture this image of several of those, and their yellow interior always sort of sets off the begonia as the yellow flowers themselves are quite pretty. But that's the begonia here at Clark Lindsay. Colas again, Clark Lindsay, someplace here on the grounds I discovered this, and the colas has great beauty, we all know that, and we were able to capture that in this particular image. Sometimes you stumble on interesting images unexpectedly, and this was one. We were out at Curtis Orchards here in Champaign, and I guess these are technically gourds. I'm not sure what the right term is, but it does show the beauty of fall, and they're items that were for sale at Curtis Orchards here in Champaign. And we had looked at the fish a moment ago, and that same pond was this iris. And it's just always fun to see the irises, particularly thinking of that along the edge of the pond where the fish was. I like fruit of any kind, and we had a project in Camera Club where we had to take a picture of an apple and then get together and show each other what we conceived. And this is the one I chose. It was 3 apples together, but the interesting part is that particular container. Our friend hand-carved that. It's a beautiful structure. But this was my attempt at apples. And right below are the berries, and they're just fun to look at. Not sure whether we got a mixture of blackberries and red raspberries, but it could well be, or maybe they just aren't right. But at any rate, it's an interesting thing. I would particularly mention on this particular photo, this is a Christmas cactus that one of our residents had, over 100 years old, and we were able to capture that beauty. And below it I found this interesting flower. It's a rare of some sort out in Longwood Gardens in Delaware, but it's a beautiful flower. This right below that, the floral beauty again here at Clark Lindsay. So this is just kind of a composite of several things. And from that, we're going to take a look at a rose, the back side of a rose. We're used to looking at the front side, and I was again in a workshop, and we were trying to think about all the different exposures that you can get of a rose, and so that's kind of an interesting perspective on that. If you've been out in Clark Lindsay at all, this is in the Meadowbrook Gardens, right behind Clark Lindsay. It just shows what beautiful woods that we have here. This one's been a particularly interesting picture. It's a water lily, and you aren't sure at first what it is unless you're told. This is a drop of water, and then these are droplets of water. And it was in the fish pond itself, and then I was able just to capture it with the water, and it's just kind of a unique vision of a lily pad. Again, around Clark Lindsay, they've done a marvelous job of landscaping here, and this is along the front entrance, and it just shows all of the fall color. And you want to note particularly this orange flower here. We're going to see a close-up of one of those in just a few moments, but it just shows the beauty that fall brings that we sometimes take for granted. Nothing unique about this, just another representative of the lily family, and it's just one that I've enjoyed. It happens to be one of the older pictures that I've had around for a while. And I mentioned that we would see a close-up of those orange leaves. This is it. And what do we call it? The little red apple of some sort. And I'm not sure what tree that's on, but it's kind of striking with the color and the texture of the limbs and the angle. So that's just been a fun picture. Let's move next to a picture of the Mississippi River. My wife and I both were raised about 15 miles away from the Mississippi River in Illinois. And here we are. We've come over to Keokuk, Iowa, and my wife and granddaughter are overlooking this beautiful Mississippi. And again, we spent many years of our early life picnicking up and down the 10 or 15 mile area of this Mississippi River. But it's a beautiful spot right next to the locks at Keokuk, Iowa. This is on the Mississippi River. We'll end this with just some individual shots. This is one of a cabin that I was able to get on the photo shoot we were doing down in Pickens, South Carolina. And the beauty of this is that we're seeing the interior of a cabin from the light coming in from the window, and it takes us back as we see all of the various tools and equipment that is incorporated into that. So more of a touch of history on there, and we'll continue the history for the last couple of here. 3 years ago, we had a chance to go down to Vicksburg, Mississippi, and see the Illinois Memorial, which is that white building overlooking the battlefield at the Vicksburg's National Military Park. And we learned the history of this, and it's a marvelous history for us to know and understand that how important this was to our survival today. So, beautiful spot, Vicksburg, Mississippi. Final image we want to look at, one that I've used, and I actually entered this in competition some, and I call it the cherry pie image. And, and the beauty of this, again, we had side lighting coming in, overlooking this cherry pie, and of course, one of the residents here told me, said, well, that's my mother's stove. Well, it does bring back a memory for some people that actually grew up using those wood-burning cook stoves. So we call that cherry pie time, and it looks like it's good enough to eat. So, well, thank you for joining us on this tour of the images, and I hope you've enjoyed it. We appreciate it, and Clark Lindsay's making some time possible for me, and that I now have time to do photography, and have added that to, that's the hobby that I follow. Other people have their other kinds of things. So thank you so much, and we hope you have enjoyed this.
Hello, I am Michelle Roberts. I am the Program Director of the Occupational Therapy Assistant Program at Parkland College. And I'm excited to be here today to introduce you to CUI's exercise. And what this is just a couple little exercises you can do from a seated position. And that we're going to work on breath and some stretches. So sit back in your chair, your back against the chair, feet flat on the floor. And I'm going to have you take your arms out. Your arms are like your wings of the owl. The owl is part of our logo. So your wings of the owl, you're going to bring them out to the side. And you're going to bring them up and take a deep breath in as you go up. Only go as far as you comfortably can go. No pain with this. Breathe in. Turn your palms down and breathe out. And move slowly. We're going to do that again. And you're going to breathe in peace, joy, and then let out anything negative. You're going to breathe in wisdom of the owl. And just let it all out. Then I want to have you roll your arms up, bring your arms, your wings back into a circle. Get those shoulders moving. Breathe in and out. In and out. Think about just spreading those back of your wings out. Okay. And one more. Good. And now we're just going to take another deep breath in with your wings. And breathe out. Another thing the owl does is he looks around, right? So you're going to just look around your environment to the right. Just look at what's around there. To the left. Just moving only your head as comfortably as you can. Back to center. You can look up. As long as it doesn't cause you to be dizzy, be careful with that. And look down. And come back up. And then lean your head to one side as well as comfortable. And then the other side. And that is your CUI's exercise. I hope you felt some blood moving through your arms and you got good deep breaths and you have a little peace and wisdom. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for tuning into CUI's TV. We hope you enjoyed the show. This video can be accessed anytime on youtube.com. In the YouTube search bar, type in UPTV6 and look for their microphone logo. We hope you will join us again next week for more local, engaging content designed specifically for Champaign County older adults. Take care and stay safe.